Hi boys and girls, it is time for social studies. So yesterday we finished our Native Americans, we made our teepees. I hope you had fun with that and that your teepees turned out really cute. Today we're starting our new unit. We're still in social studies and our unit is called Kings and Queens. And so we're going to be learning about kings and queens and doing some really fun stories. So I'm excited about this. And so we're just going to talk a little bit about what kings and queens are. Different countries have different kinds of rulers. Like our country, the United States, we don't have a king, we have a president. And we have a president because we have a different kind of government. Our government is called a democracy, where people get to help choose our laws and things that we do in our country. For kings and queens, their kind of government is called a monarchy. And in those kind of governments, the king and the queen get to make all the decisions. The people don't really get a say. And so that's kind of the difference between our country and countries that have kings and queens. And that's part of what makes America amazing. But kings and queens, they're kind of fun because they always go with, there's a lot of fairy tale stories and, like all the Disney princesses and stories, there's kings and queens. And so there's always fun stories. So I think you guys will enjoy the kings and queens. So let's get started reading. And we have a picture of a palace. Look at this fancy building. Can you believe that this was actually someone's house? Well, it's not just any house. It's a palace. This palace used to belong to the Queen of France. What do you think it's like inside? It must be nice if it was built for a queen. In fact, this palace has 440 rooms inside. That is huge. My house only has 3 bedrooms. That's way bigger. As the leaders of countries, kings and queens often had the biggest and the best homes in the land, known as palaces or castles. As the leader, the king or queen rules a particular area of the land and the people who live there. This area of the land is called a kingdom. There used to be many, many kingdoms in the world. Today, however, there are not as many kingdoms or kings and queens as there used to be. It's good to be king. It's good to be king. That's an old saying, and if you look at this king, whose name is King Richard II of England, you begin to get the idea of why this saying holds true. If you walked into a palace in England 300 years ago and saw this person, you wouldn't have any trouble guessing that he was a king. As the most important and powerful people in their kingdoms, kings and queens always got the best of everything. The best houses, the best clothing, and the best food. Kings did not have to say please and thank you. They didn't even have to dress themselves. They had servants do that for them. We have to dress ourselves, don't we? Yes, we do. And pretty much everything a king or queen used, touched, or owned was called royal. Soft, fluffy robes King Richard II wore were royal robes. The cup that he drank from was called the royal cup. And if it was royal, it meant that only the king, queen, or someone in the royal family, such as his daughter, the princess, or his son, the prince, was allowed to use it. King Richard II is holding 2 things in this picture. In one hand, he is holding the royal orb, and you can see right there, and it's like a spear in his hand. And the other, he is holding a royal scepter, and his scepter is right there. It looks kind of like maybe a walking stick. And these were ceremonial objects or other things that the king wore or held just to remind people who was in charge. And if you remember, if you watch Frozen, and when it's coronation day and Elsa is getting, when she's becoming queen and she has to wear her gloves so her hands don't get frozen, she holds a ball in one hand and she holds a scepter in the other hand. That's the orb, and that's the scepter that they're showing. So some of you may have seen that already. And the hat that he is wearing is a crown. It's no ordinary hat. Crowns are usually made of some kind of precious metal like gold or silver, and it's decorated with fancy jewels like rubies, emeralds, and sapphires. These jewels were called the crown jewels, and like the scepter and the orb, The crown was an important symbol of the king's power. Oh, there is a beautiful crown. And here is a close-up picture of a crown. It's made of gold and loaded with fancy pearls and other jewels. A hat like this would not be good for keeping the sun out of your eyes, and it wouldn't be very good for keeping your head warm. But if you were wearing it, that meant you were king or queen or king, or the ruler of a kingdom. A few hundred years ago, I'm going to get a page turn. A few hundred years ago, it would have been nice to be a king or a queen ruling your own kingdom, making all the rules and laws that people had to follow. But it would also be very difficult. Kings and queens had big responsibilities, and every day people came to them to ask for money or advice. And every day they had to make important decisions about things that were happening in the kingdom. A famous king named Charlemagne was so important that an artist made a stained glass window with his image, with his picture. Look at his fancy chair. You can see it. That's the blue part. He's sitting down. His fancy chair, and the king's chair was called a throne. And as you might imagine, only the king was allowed to sit there. His throne was raised up on a platform, so he would appear tall and important. And even when he was sitting down, he would still be taller than other people. And what's that in his hand? Charlemagne is holding a sword and an orb, like we just talked about, to remind people that he is king. And over the next couple of weeks, you will learn more about kingdoms, kings, queens, and everything having to do with royalty. All right, we're going to stop right there. And we're going to look at the papers in our packet. I'm going to take down our pictures for right now. And everybody should have a picture, a paper that looks like this in the packet with a king and queen on it. And it has some questions for us. And our first question at the top, it says, I'm going to write in blue, it says, this is a, what is that a picture of? It is of a king, and we're going to write the word king. And if you need help spelling, the words king and queen are right here at the top. So write your word king on the line. Oh, and it has our NG sound, so you guys should be able to write it very nicely. And then our next one, this is a, yes, it is a queen. She is the ruler of the kingdom. And it has our Q, queen also has our QU sound, so you should be able to write queen very nicely on the line. And right here it says word work, and we're going to trace the word royal. We're going to practice writing the word royal. R-O-Y-A-L. It's kind of a tricky word to say, isn't it? And there's a question right here. These are some royal things, and you can draw me a picture of royal things. You could draw a picture of an orb, a scepter, a sword. You could draw a picture of a palace. Anything that we read about that is royal, you could draw a picture of it right here. Your choice. And then down here, last one. What would you like about being king or queen? Would you like having servants? Would you like having a palace? Would you like having all the best food and all the best clothes? Would you like to be in charge? Or would you just like helping people? What would you like best about being king and queen? All right, boys and girls, have fun with this paper. And you can color in the king and queen however you would like. And then one last thing that's in your packet today. And this you do not have to bring back to school. This is just information on your families about what we're going to be learning about with kings and queens. So your grown-ups at home can read these over, and it just gives some ideas about what we're going to learn, and even books that you could read. Maybe you could find them online. If you type them into YouTube, you might be able to find them in read-alouds so that you can learn more about kings and queens on your own. Okay, guys, have fun.